All right, let me get into this word. Proverbs Chapter 5. Verse 3. I'm going to read a couple of verses in the passage to try to get a feel for what's going on in this chapter. Some of you may be familiar with it. I just want to read. Let me start at verse 3. For the lips of an immoral woman are as sweet as honey, and her mouth is smoother than oil. Verse 8. Stay away from her. That's what it says. Don't go near the door of her house. Verse 15, drink water from your own well. Share your love only with your wife. Verse 20, why be captivated, my son, by an immoral woman, or fondle the breast of a promiscuous woman? My subject today is SideChickology II. My subtopic is Inside the Game. In 2015, I did a message here called SideChickology, and some of you may remember that message. And there was such a response to the message that it challenged me to go deeper and explore further into this topic and subject. And as a result of that, over the last several years, I've been working on the book, which I've completed the manuscript. It is in an editing process now, and the book is called Why Men and Women Cheat, SideChickology, and it's understanding, avoiding, and recovering from infidelity. And so that book is a result of the work and research that I've done on the subject. And let me just say this: when I call this message SideChickology II, and I say inside the game, I want you to understand that when I use the term game, that I don't mean to speak of infidelity in a playful way. Not all games are safe. Some games are dangerous. But there is a mentality that it's a game for people. There's a lot of maneuvering and sneakiness and craftiness and strategizing and hiding and wins and conquests and losses. For many people, it is a game. And the problem with this topic is that though there are statistics in my most recent research that says somewhere between 7 to 7.5 out of every 10 marriages, somebody in the marriage crossed the line. That's a high number. That's 70 to 75% that somebody did something. It may not have even been a full physical, sexual relationship with somebody else. It may have been an emotional relationship where you got intimate with somebody without taking your clothes off or without having sex with the person. Your heart got connected to somebody. It could have been a virtual infidelity through pornography. You think pornography is okay? Do it in front of your spouse. Ooh, you should see the faces of the, I wonder. There's so many levels of. It could be inappropriate texting and conversations that are going on, and so it is and some people want to look at infidelity as cut and dry. It is what it is. It's simple. It's cut and dry. But I believe it's complicated. I believe it's complicated in the fact that it has a pathology to it. There's a pattern that happens in relationships that make it vulnerable to infidelity. And then there are painful and sometimes volatile consequences that go with it that make it very, very difficult. And the problem is that in the church, there's not a lot of conversation around it. How can we not talk about something when in fact there's not a row in this room or any room of anybody watching me right now, there's not a row that somebody ain't playing the game right now. There's not a row in here and somebody hasn't played the game. There's not a row in here where somebody's not sitting on the sidelines trying to get in the game. Can we just be real? Let's come on. Just let's breathe in. I just think it's a tragedy to come to church and we're going through a church motion and we're playing games and we're giving sermons that don't connect to where people really live. This is the kind of stuff that's getting people hemmed up and families destroyed and people losing their lives. It's risky. So we got to talk about it. We have to talk about it. So what I want to do is, what is amazing to me is how relevant the Bible is, even though it was written thousands of years before the M2 song, You, Me, and He. Y'all remember that? They got a new song out called Weekend. Somebody just sent it to me this morning when I told them about the message sentence called Weekend. I never heard it before. It's got 116 million views on YouTube. The song is all about infidelity. I think there's a line in there that says, you're like 9 to 5. I'm the weekend. Look, somebody know it. I blow his mind every weekend. This is anytime somebody watches something about cheating, 116 million views of it, this is epidemic. Listen to what Proverbs says in Proverbs Chapter 5 about this subject. I want to give you 4 things to consider. I'll give you more than 4, but 4 main points to consider. First of all, it says about this woman in verse 3 that the lips of an immoral woman are sweet as honey, and her mouth is smoother than oil. Now, that's not a description of the texture of her mouth. It's allegorical terminology describing how smooth her words are. There are women who are so smooth they can seduce you without touching you. I'm getting into the cause now. See, most infidelity doesn't start in the bed, it starts in a man's head. There are women who know how to get in our head. Y'all told the kids to leave? It starts with a conversation. It starts with dialogue. Then she's on his mind. She's on his thought. I tell you what, it doesn't all, it's okay, it may start with a physical attraction. That may be the genesis of it. But you can be physically attracted to somebody and it go nowhere. It can't go anywhere without a conversation. There's got to be a dialogue that lets you know I'm available to go down this street. By the way, it's a street that has no U-turns on it. So it's interesting that the verse starts talking about her words. Then the father in verse 7 starts warning his son to stay away from it. Doesn't even say anything about sex. It doesn't talk about sex at all in this passage until you get down to verse 20 when it says, why would you fondle her breast? Why would you be intimate with an immoral woman? Which is deep because I'm telling you, a woman will get it in a man's head before she gets in his bed. It's conversation. What kind of dialogue are you having? And that conversation can happen through text. It can happen online. It can happen through, it's a lot of sliding in a DM. None of the people at the 8 o'clock service have no idea what sliding in a DM is. I ain't going to even take time to explain it to you. There are all kinds of platforms where these dialogues happen, but they always start with a conversation that introduces a pathway to a road you cannot get off. Listen to what this father says. First of all, when you go down to verse 7 and 8, he says, stay away from it. Then he says, verse 9. If you do, don't go near the door of her house, verse 8 says, if you do, you will lose your honor. You will lose the merciless people, all you have achieved. Strangers will consume your wealth, and someone else will enjoy the fruit of your labor. There are 6 consequences that I see in this verse. Cost. Point number 1, the cost. Here's the cost of infidelity. The first one is in verse 9. It says you're going to lose your honor. Honor is the way the public perceives you. It is social respect. It is organizational respect. It is community respect. It is being able to walk around with your head held high. And I'm saying, if you cross this line, one of the costs is not just keeping your hair cut and your cologne fresh and your outfits tight. One of the costs is you lose your honor. You lose your honor. You lose your character. I want you to hear something. I don't know how much time. There's a story in Job chapter 29. I'm just going to read some of the verses to you because I think they're so profound. They talk about, I want to show you a pattern of what it looks like when you lose honor. In Job 29:4, Job says, when I was in my prime, God's friendship was felt in my home. Those were the days when I went to the city gate, took my place among the honored leaders, verse 7. The young stepped aside when they saw me. Even the aged rose in respect in my coming. The princes stood in silence, put their hands over their mouths. The highest officials of the city stood quietly, holding their tongues in respect. And he goes all the way through chapter 29, talking about how honorable he was. In verse 20, he says, new honors are constantly bestowed on me, and my strength is continually renewed. Then we get to chapter 30, verse 1, and it says, but now I'm mocked by people younger than I, by young men whose fathers are not worthy to run with my sheepdogs. Verse 9 of 30, and now they mock me with vulgar songs. They taunt me, they despise me, and won't come near me except to spit in my face. Verse 15, I live in terror now. My honor has blown away in the wind, and my prosperity has vanished like a cloud. Verse 30, my skin is turned dark, and my bones burn with fever. My heart plays sad music, and my flute accompanies those who weep. And I started saying, what happened to Job? How did Job go in chapter 29 from having all this honor to people spitting in his face and disrespecting him? And Pastor Jason, I've never made this connection before. Elder McCork, I never made this connection before. I always read Job 31:1 separate from chapters 29 and 30. You get to chapter 31, verse 1, and here's what he says. I made a covenant with my eyes not to look at a woman with lust. There is no way you can disconnect whatever happened to Job. Now, I know I can't guarantee that Job crossed the line in his marriage, but I tell you what, there is something fishy about he went from chapter 29, had all this honor, to chapter 30, had all this dishonor, disrespect, and in chapter 31, verse 1, he says, you know what? I ain't going to look at no woman with lust. Then he goes in chapter 31 to talk about all the consequences of doing that. I don't know if he struggled with it like most men, but here's the deal. The thing that when a man loses his honor and loses his respect, it does something to a man I can't even explain. It breaks you down when you have no honor and no respect. And it's one of the costs of crossing the line of infidelity. Here's another cost. Another cost back in Proverbs 5, verse 9. It says, you will also lose all you have achieved. All your achievements. Think about your promotions, your accomplishments, your trophies, your awards, your championships. All the things you've achieved are thrown on the line as a result of crossing the line of infidelity. That's a big price right there. All you've achieved. Then chapter 5, verse 10 says you can also lose your wealth. Proverbs chapter 5, verse 10, it says, strangers will consume your wealth. By the way, when it says you'll lose all you've achieved, it doesn't even say you're going to lose all you achieved to the woman you're cheating with. It says you're going to lose all you've achieved to merciless people. People. Check this out. This is what got me. The strange thing about infidelity is that all the costs don't come from the relationship. The cost comes from people who find out about it, who punish you. Okay, let me give you an example. Anybody old enough to go with me? I want everybody who's old enough to go back in your mind to the 1980s. Just go reverse. Go back to the 1980s, and I want you to go somewhere between 1984 to 1988, round in there. Y'all got me? And what I want you to do is think in your mind, 1984 to 1988, black entertainment icons. Who was a black entertainment icon between 1984 and 1988? Y'all got it? How many of y'all thought of Bill Cosby? Anybody during that time? Do you remember the impact that Heathcliff Huxtable had on black America? After all the mediocre programs that showed us struggling and poverty. I mean, the Evans family never got out of that apartment. When they was going to get out, the man tripped up in the funeral at the wedding and messed his knee up. Thelma's husband, Keith. I say that because when I was growing up, I wish I was Thelma's husband. I'm just going to tell you like that. I even told Vicky that. That's just Thelma. Thelma's a distraction. See what I'm saying? I'm gonna tell you how this works, even when you're preaching. See, there's something in the male brain that I want to talk about later. I'm gonna talk about it later. So now you got a man that's a doctor. They live in a brownstone in New York. The woman's a lawyer, Ivy League trained children. What an impact on Black American culture and what we thought we could become. And all of that had happened, the platform that man had. Now, think of him right now. Now, it may be a bad example because if he's guilty, he deserves to be punished. I get that. But what I'm saying is that it's not just the women who are punished. It's merciless people. It's people who stripped him of everything he's ever had, stripped him of his. This is the consequence and the cost of crossing the line. Then it says in verse 10, you can also lose your wealth. Let me tell you something. Wealth is important to me. Y'all church people can act like you want to be broke and save all you want. I'm allergic to broke. I work hard to have wealth. I want generational wealth. I had to scratch and pray and hustle and grind for wealth. I didn't inherit nothing. I ain't inherit no wealth. I worked for it. And check this out. It is possible to cross the line of infidelity and lose your wealth, not even to your family, lose it to strangers, the Bible says. Strangers? It's one thing for your own kids to blow your money. And some of them will squander all you've worked for. But I'm talking about people that have no blood connection to you. The only reason they got access to your wealth is because somebody they related to had a big butt. And you followed it. So now there's a dissemination. There's a distribution of wealth. In fact, the next cost is the fruit of your labor. Like people will enjoy. It says, someone else will enjoy the fruit of your labor. Every man listening to me, the people who are connected to you in your home, your wife, your loved ones, every blessing that's on your life is part of their family benefit package. Wow. Your connections, your assets, your clout, your influence, your network, your money, everything God has poured on you is to be poured into your wife and your descendants. Everybody connected to you is blessed. Legally, bloodline, authority. When you start messing around with somebody else, that fruit of your labor, those assets begin to be disseminated. And they lose their power. Because now, when your child wants to go to a sporting event, you can't take them because you gave the side chicks kids the tickets last week, and you don't want to hit the people up again for tickets. So now you got to tell your son, nah, son, this ain't a good night to go. These are costs. Here's the next one. Verse 11 says, disease will consume your body. If there's ever been an argument of whether or not sexually transmitted disease is in the scriptures, here's a good place to argue. In the context of a man warning his son against sexually illicit relationships, he says one of the costs is disease will consume your body. There are at least 17 sexually transmitted diseases that we know of today, and some of them have no medical cure. You add to that, on top of that, some of the consequences of these sexual enhancement medications that are turning men going blind. But I had an erection. He can't even see no more, don't have a memory, don't know who he is. But he's ready. I don't even know what I'm ready for, but I'm ready. Where you at? I'm telling you, illicit sex has a cost. It's a cost. Shit. Here's a sixth cost. Public disgrace. As private a thing as sex is supposed to be, when it's done wrong, it can go shamefully public. And not only do I see these costs, but there's a certainty in the passage. Listen to this. Listen to this, how certain the consequences are. It says in verse 9, you will lose your honor. You will lose your honor. You will lose the merciless people all you achieve. Strangers, verse 10, will consume your wealth. Someone else will enjoy the fruit of your labor. In the end, you will groan in anguish. Verse 14, you must face public disgrace. 7 guarantees of pain. That's deep right there. When you think about this, he says you will lose. It's a loss. I don't know. There's not a man in here who's old enough who wouldn't agree that if you go by her house, you're going to take an L. If you're a married man and you go by the door of a woman you're not supposed to be with, I don't care how bold, I don't care how spiritual you are, you're going to take an L. It's a guaranteed loss. It's like, you know what? If you went to the basketball court, let's say you still got game. I don't know, Greg, you might still have a jump. But let's say you go to the basketball court. I never really, I could play though, but I wasn't as good as some. But let's say you go to the basketball court and you play some basketball. There's a possibility you might lose, but you might win. Depends on you get some scrubs, you might, it depends on who you're playing. You might lose, you might win. If you go to the casino, that's what you do. You go to the casino and you play blackjack, you play craps, you play slot machines. You might lose, but you might win. Just don't know. You go to the golf course. You go to golf course place, you might win and you might lose. But let me say something. When you go to you're a man of God and you go to a woman's house that's not your wife, the game is fixed, Slim. Just go and put an L in the column, right? That's an L. You can't go near the door. So let me ask some questions. Here's some questions. This is time for y'all to think about this. I want you to answer this question. Man or a woman, what means more to you than a sexual thrill? Think about that. What means more to you? If that's at the top of your list, if nothing else is more important, then you're a sex addict. Anybody on crack, there's nothing more important than crack. I live my life to get high. You understand what I'm saying? If there's nothing more important to you than a sexual thrill, you're an addict. But what's more important to you? Is it your wealth? Is it your money? Your reputation, honor, character? Is your family more important? Your health? I think you should write it down. What's more important? It's kind of awkward writing it when you sit beside somebody that might be looking. I want to ask you something. You're in Woodbridge or you're watching online. Here's the question I want to ask you. Is there any woman or man on the planet that's worth you losing what you just wrote? I mean, do they exist? That's the kind of calculation you got to go through in your head. Is it worth it? Let me take a sidebar real quick. I talked about the cost. I talked about the certainty as it relates to this matter of infidelity as we look inside this game of infidelity. I want to talk for a minute about the cause. Now, excuse the diversion a little bit because this is not emphatically stated in the passage. But the way my mind is wired, I like to think through, well, why do people, if this is so dangerous and so reckless and so costly, why is 75% of people married doing it? I mean, it ain't like it's such an anomaly. Like the majority of people are doing it, and then the others are thinking about it, and then the rest are praying, Lord, don't let me do it. You understand? Why is it so hard? Why is it a struggle? First of all, I believe when you look at the woman side of it, I believe that there's something I'm going to call it the heroine syndrome. Not the drug heroin, but it's like when a woman wants to be a hero. I believe that a woman will get involved in an illicit relationship because there's something in women that it's like this. Even if you can't be loved, you want to be needed. So you know you're not getting love from a relationship, but you feel needed. He needs me. You 9 to 5. I'm the weekend. Am I right? He needs me on the weekends. He needs me to give him something she ain't giving him. So you don't feel loved, you just feel needed. He needs me in this way. So she won't let herself feel used. Her mind won't let her think that way. She makes sure she feels needed. I matter because he needs me. That's why he needs me so much that when he's out on a date with his wife, when she goes to the bathroom, he calls me. Oh God. This is some good. Somebody gonna say, did you call him? Did you? Nah. You understand? I ain't new to this. I not only have helped people with it, I've lived it. You understand what I'm saying? I know what's up. Yeah, I know. I wrote a book about it. He needs me. Some women who aren't even involved in adulterous relationships still have the heroine syndrome. They want to be a hero. And usually women like that, they always get involved with men who are dysfunctional, have some kind of brokenness where they can't help themselves. And they actually have project relationships. Again, they don't feel loved, they just know they're needed. And the reward is they get to point to their work and say, I rehabilitated him. Because every time he talks at an event, he says, the woman I got, man, she pulled me up. You know, I was up Jessup. I came straight home, and I ain't had nothing. she like, you know, I just give all glory to God. She will never engage relationally with somebody who's whole. Woo! Is this good? It's good, ain't it? She has to be a hero. Let me give you another one. It's not going to come on the screen. Psychological wounding. Women who were sexually abused as a child, sometimes that motivates them to be involved in sexually illicit relationships as an adult. Sigmund Freud calls that repetition compulsion. And what it is what she's trying to do is reenact the environment, but this time she's in control. Because when it happened to me as a child, I was not in control. That's why a lot of women who were abused also like going after men in authority, because it was an authority figure that damaged me. That's the psychology of it. That's why men in positions of authority, you got to pray for them, because there's always people who are wounded trying to take us down to recover from something that happened to them. Makes you feel powerful that I can break him down. Here's the third cause. This is a cause with men. It's the male brain. It's what happened to me while I'm trying to preach, and I thought about Thelma. There is something in the male brain that is hormonally attracted to pulchritude and estrogen. It's an attraction to it. In fact, in the world of marketing research, they actually design clothing in a way that attracts a man that way. They know it's a natural reaction to. In fact, one of my mentors told me that a man in our brain, we can recognize pulchritude a split second faster than we recognize danger. By pulchritude, I mean the curvaceous shape of a woman captures our attention. It can freeze a man. If you ever hear about a man and he ran into something with his car, or he walked into something, or I don't care if he told you he fell asleep. I'm telling you what happened. He saw a woman's butt. That's all. Hey, hold up, man. Hold up. Women don't do that when they see a man. They don't be like. What I'm telling you is there's something wrong with us. Frozen. Work the mirror. Oh, let me. Lord. Doesn't even mean he don't love God. Don't mean he don't love his wife. It's a brain thing. If I'm telling the truth, somebody just say, he telling the truth. Tell him. Come on, thank you very much. I'm trying to get to the cause. I'm telling the truth, Jeff. I don't care how much Jesus you got in you. I don't care how much blood you've been washed in. I don't care. You can have your Bible with your name on it. Let a woman with a nice body come through it. Bam! I know I'm saved. Love Jesus. But I'm telling you, this is a situation. Here's another. Give me 5 more. Hey, give me a little more time. Here's another one. It's just the power of sin. The Bible says the eye is never satisfied with just seeing. At the end of the day, there is a hunger in us that's never satisfied. By the way, whole and full people don't behave avariciously. It's people who are empty who eat from anybody's table. That's why you got to pay attention to filling your life up. That's what my 5th point is. Having an unbalanced life makes you vulnerable to temptation to act out. Because even though the Bible describes the wife later on in verse 15 and 19 as a well for her husband, you can't always just drink from one well in your life. There needs to be other healthy environments that you get nourished by that are non-sexual. Like there's some like in my book, I didn't finish writing the acknowledgments yet, but I already have a list of acknowledgments. One of the groups I'm going to acknowledge is the Woodmore Pinochle Club. The Woodmore Pinochle Club is a group of mostly senior citizens that play pinochle. I'm in that club. I'm the youngest person. I'm 52. I'm the youngest. They treat me like a little kid. Keith, go to my car. Run, get my glasses. Yes, ma'am. They don't need call. See, they don't know me. I'm not pastor. I'm not in charge. I love it. I can just be myself. I like playing cards. I'm competitive. I can sit around. Ain't no temptation. Ain't no poker too. Ain't no distractions in the whole room. Trust me. Ain't no freezing up. Ain't no freezing. I can play cards with them for 8 hours and be safe and supported and loved. It's a healthy outlet. I got to give acknowledgement to them. I got to acknowledge Pastor Darrell Townsend and Pastor James Marshall and Deacon Kevin Wright, my Monopoly crew. We play Monopoly all night sometimes till the sun comes up. But you know what? I'm in an environment where there's no sensuality, there's safety, there's an environment. I got to thank Miles Rawls of the Goodman League, where I can go down there in the summer and watch some basketball. Yeah, it's full of weed, but I like the game. I gotta thank the Washington Wizards for allowing me to be the chaplain of their team. At least 45 games a year, I'm down at the arena doing chapel and watching basketball. You know, that's 45 times I can't get in trouble during that time. You have to have stuff in your life that you schedule into your life to keep your behind out of trouble. You're just sitting around doing nothing all the time. Here's my question to you. What can you start doing that you've been meaning to do but putting off doing that can help protect you from temptation? Get in a bowling league. Be careful. You got to, do stuff. Do activities. What can you do more frequently that is a healthy outlet for you? And I'm saying, write it down there. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start going every Monday. I'm going to start going on Saturday mornings. I'm going to start going on Thursday nights. Whatever it is, get it in your schedule. That's protecting you from crossing the line of infidelity. Here's my last point, the counsel. Here's the counsel of the father. He gives 2 pieces of advice to his son about this woman. You ready? Stay away from her and go home. Run home. I say run home, yeah. Don't go home. You be like this, yeah, well, it's show. Nah, you got it. Let's talk about staying away. Stay away from the door. What this father, he's saying this woman is dangerous. Dangerous. Anybody's ever rode on a subway on a train knows that there are 2 tracks on the train to guide the train, And then there's another rail. There are two rails that got, then there's another rail. You know what that rail is called? The third rail. And that's not a very good picture of it, but the third rail, on the third rail, it has a warning, right? High voltage explosive. Because that third rail empowers the train. It provides ventilation on the train. This is where all the electric power comes from the train. Now, most people don't mess around with that third rail because there's a sign on it saying, you touch this, you can die, or you can be harmed seriously. That's the third rail. That's what this father is trying to tell his son. That a woman that's not your wife and you're married is the third rail. The problem is when we get in the real world that there's no woman that looks like that. So you're looking at something more like this. I don't know if they're going to have another picture. But you're looking at this and you're trying to make this, that's a third rail. But that don't look like a third rail right there. If you listen on the radio, that's Beyonce. Like, somehow we got to get in our minds, how do you take somebody that's attractive and you put risk on them when there's no sign? There's no sign on her saying, high voltage. Danger, you touch me, you're going down. You're going to lose everything you own to merciless people. None of that. People don't walk around that sign, but all of it's true. There's a guarantee. If it hasn't happened to you yet, emphasize the word yet. The consequences are coming. So what you have to do is you have to say, it looks good, but here's what it'll cost me. See, there are costs that I don't want to pay. The cost might be higher than, listen, ladies, the cost is high for you too. The cost may be more than a mani and a pedi and getting your hair right. It may be something you lose that you can never get back. Stay away. Here's a question I want to ask. I'm almost done. What current door poses a danger for you? What door do you need to stay away from? Who is it? And what can you do to create geographical, social, and emotional distance between you and them? Space. Ask for a transfer. Can I work on a different floor? Can I telecommute more? I need to just drop this class. Let me sit somewhere else in the classroom. Let me stop hanging around afterwards, waiting and lingering. Let me just go straight to my car and get on about my business. Let me keep it moving. What can you do? Some people you're going to have to unfriend. You're going to have to block. You have to unfollow. Some people you just have to mute. Whatever you got to do, what are you going to do to create emotional distance between you, geographical distance, social distance to protect you? Here's one more thing. Who can you tell to bring it into the light of accountability before it's too late? Who can you just say, you know what, let me just tell you, so I don't want to be creeping around, this person right here, this person right here, I need you to keep an eye on me. They're dangerous. They're dangerous to me. There's chemistry. and let me tell you how you kill chemistry, right? If you're married and you want to kill chemistry between you and a person you're feeling chemistry with, start talking about your spouse. What happens is when you start talking about your spouse, you're like, yeah, my wife and my husband, man, my wife. You start talking well of your spouse. What it does is it's a chemical buster. If there was anything, it just busts all that up in there. People be like, yeah, well, how the kids doing? It's going on something else. You have to create boundaries because this is nothing to play with. Then he says, make sure you're taking care of all of your sexual needs in your own marriage. Let me read verse 15 and 19. Let me read that in Proverbs 5. You got it? I'll read it out of here. It says, drink water from your own well, share love only with your wife. Why spill the water of your springs in the streets, having sex with just anyone? You should reserve it for yourselves, never share it with strangers. Let your wife be a fountain of blessing for you. Ladies, I want to say this, you're a fountain of blessing for your husband. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. She's a loving, dear, graceful doe. That was totally accidental. She's a graceful doe. That's why I don't like parts of the Bible, because we don't use that word like dough. Let her breast satisfy you always. May you always be captivated with her love. Run home. But somebody's saying, well, man, I ain't got nobody to run home to. Then I'm saying you need to get married. Don't just marry anybody. Listen to my last message, because it's called What Everybody Wished They Would Know Before They Got Married. So you know what questions to ask. So you know what you're getting into. But you need to get married. You need to get married. You say, well, I got a wife at home, but I can't run to her. She's not available to me. I want to tell you something. Any wife that's not available to her husband sexually, there's either a medical problem or an emotional problem. If your wife will not open up to you sexually, it's because she's been wounded by you emotionally. So you got to get counseling. And I'm saying you're going to spend as much time in counseling trying to find a new wife. You might as well spend that time in counseling trying to work with the wife you got so you can keep your family together. This is what you're going to say, we tried counseling. You tried barber. I bet you went to a bad barber, but you found another one, didn't you? I bet somebody messed your head up one time. You said, man, I ain't never going back there, but I bet you went somewhere else. We can find whatever we want, and we can leave whatever we're ready to quit on. Stop quitting. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for your word. Thank you for this truth. Help us to not just listen to it, but live it in Jesus' name. Amen.